Hey there, I'm Anthony Romano, and I'm going to tell you in this video 3 fat burners that actually double as nootropics, so brain supplements, okay, cognitive enhancers. And these are just amazing products because you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but at the same time, they're very effective for both those purposes. It's rare that you find something that actually, when you're chasing 2 chickens, you end up only catching 1, but no, these ones catch both and they do them both very well. So subscribe, like the video right now, and also follow me on Instagram, all those other things. But we're going to get into these 3 supplements and how you can use them effectively right now. So, what are the 3 supplements that I'm talking about here? Well, the first one is obvious, okay? The first one is acetyl L-carnitine. I've talked about this before, and by the way, links to these products in the description, especially even better versions of these products, because realistically, with this acetyl L-carnitine, or ALCAR as they call it, I actually bought, I bought this on its own a while back, but realistically, it's better to get some of these ingredients in complexes. So I have the complex that I like best linked down below, and essentially, I just paid a little bit more than I should have with this one, opposed to getting a whole complete package. ALCAR, what does it do? ALCAR is necessary for your body to basically mobilize fatty acids. And when you get the acetyl form of carnitine, it's better able to cross the blood-brain barrier. So basically, you have your brain, which is made almost entirely of fat and prefers using fat as a fuel source. What it's going to, not the fatty acids themselves, but essentially, your brain is going to function very smoothly when you're running on fat. And when you have ALCAR in your system, you're going to be able to better metabolize fat and oxidize it. So essentially, when you have the acetyl form, there's a better ability to transport energy to the brain. And you can also get, regular carnitine, which is L-carnitine tartrate, which is generally a little bit better for fat burning, but it's not going to be able to cross the blood-brain barrier as well as the ALCAR form, the acetylated form. But I use carnitine plenty of times. It's an amino acid. Well, it technically is an ammonium compound that breaks off of an amino acid, but it's a natural ingredient that you get from food, right? Whenever you eat a steak, you get some L-carnitine in there. And basically, when you supplement with either of these forms, okay, either the powdered form or the pill form, tend to get better deals with powders a lot of times, but either regular L-carnitine or acetyl L-carnitine, you are going to notice better fat burn, no doubt. I actually use this in a specific way I'll explain in a moment, but you're going to get better fat burn and also smoother cognition, okay? Particularly with the ALCAR form. Personally, I've had a lot of carnitine supplements over the years, and I had the original acetyl L-carnitine, but I tend to just use ALCAR nowadays when I'm trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone in the same day. So if I have a fat burning phase going on, or the same day I have a focus intensive day ahead of me, that's when I take both of these. And if I'm just going for fat burn, I'm going to take just regular L-carnitine. So the way I use this particularly for fat burning is if you have a little bit of L-carnitine in your system before you do a workout, basically your body's going to be able to get more of its energy demands met from fat. It's a precursor to burning fat as fuel. So essentially, the more you have of this, the better able your body is to mobilize fat. So if you do 20 minutes of cardio and you have carnitine in your system, beautiful. Now more of that energy should have been provided from fat as a fuel source rather than, running through your glycogen reserves. So another thing too is do low intensity steady state cardio for this one, because that's going to really maximize how much fat is being used as a fuel source. Fat is always designed to be handling 90% of your activity, and the short burst is what carbs are designed for. So don't worry about doing like the most intense freaking sprinting. Just do some light intensity 20 minutes incline walking on a treadmill with some carnitine in your system. Now, let's get on to the next one. Okay, so the first one was ALCAR and carnitine. The second one is Forskolin. Okay, Forskolin, this stuff right here. Basically, a lot of people will say Forskolin isn't a fat burner. It technically is not, but as a byproduct of its effects on boosting muscle growth and testosterone function, you get this sort of effect on catabolism to fat tissue, particularly because testosterone is catabolic to fat tissue and anabolic to muscle tissue. So realistically, a lot of people go to Forskolin for its cognition benefits, okay? And that's actually why I use it. And that's why I got this a long time ago. Like, you can see the dent marks on this thing. because I've had this one for a while. But a lot of people will actually use Forskolin in complexes. I actually use it in the CBD complex I use, the CBD Nootropic, which is also linked below, LifeStack's Flow. They have some Forskolin in here of a high quality type of it. But funny enough, this actually came from one of the original nootropic stacks I probably had when I was like 17, Siltep, which is one of the first real nootropic stacks that came out. It's basically a natural form of Forskolin and artichoke extract, but the main subject for this video's purposes is Forskolin, okay? But you do get a considerable cognitive boost when you use both of these, particularly when it comes to task retention, okay? Now, the way it actually affects you in terms of fat burning and cognition, you get that enhanced task retention, particularly when it comes to, you know, doing a lot of tasks you just don't want to do, okay? There was Tim Ferriss, who's one of my favorite writers, I've actually got me started in a lot of this stuff, said it has a modafinil-like effect. Modafinil is like the pharmaceutical that has the strongest nootropic benefit. It's what the movie Limitless was based after, pretty much. And apparently, according to Tim Ferriss, this is the most modafinil-like effect you can get without having to go to pharmaceuticals. Now, these are natural ingredients, but I will say this stuff is pretty powerful, but I actually did like the Siltep stack better with it because it has phenylalanine, which basically can also help with dopamine production. So, Forskolin, great stack. One thing I actually do is I have a pre-workout supplement that combines a lot of these ingredients, okay? I'm going to get into that in a moment, actually, because I'm going to go to the next one, which is tyrosine. So tyrosine is an amino acid that's necessary for a lot of things. It's necessary for your thyroid production, and it's also necessary for the production of catecholamines in your brain, so basically excitatory neurotransmitters, okay? Catecholamines will also, you know, help with dopamine, okay? So more of that reward response. So that's essentially the nature of this nootropic response from tyrosine, L-tyrosine, right? It's just the form that's actually bioavailable. So amino acid tyrosine, you can get it from foods, okay? You can get a lot of these things from food. Carnitine, you can get in food. Tyrosine, you can get in food. Forskolin, yeah, you can't get that in food, but it's a natural supplement. Essentially, tyrosine and, you know, all these ingredients, when they're concentrated in a certain dose, they have therapeutic effects. That's how a lot of amino acids work, okay? In my other videos, I've talked about even, you know, 5-HTP, which is a precursor to serotonin, but it's really just a form of tryptophan, which is an amino acid, one that people associate with, you know, you get it from turkey, Thanksgiving, and then you're relaxed and tired, right? So therapeutic amino acids is a very viable option, and it's way better than you pursuing drugs for any purpose in that way, okay? And when we're looking at tyrosine, okay, the fat-burning properties to it are going to come as a result of boosting those catecholamines, so boosting adrenaline, okay? Essentially, anything that's going to boost adrenaline in your body is going to have a fat-burning effect. This is why a lot of fat burners on the market have just jacked up with stimulants, because of course that's going to increase your body temperature. Of course that's going to slightly make you burn a couple hundred more calories per day. It will, at the expense of, you know, jacking up your stimulant intake for the day. But the way that it's actually going to create more fat breakdown is increasing adrenaline, which will then make your body more sensitive to the basically the fat burning properties of epinephrine. So when we're looking at, you know, how do you use this to actually burn more fat? If you're in a low carb state, a ketogenic state, a fasted state, and you use something like tyrosine, essentially your body's going to be even more sensitive to the fat burning qualities of epinephrine, so adrenaline basically. So when we're looking at, you know, using a tyrosine, you're going to have more of that task retention, especially when used in combination with the Forskolin or, you know, a Forskolin artichoke extract basically complex. But it's all about that task retention, okay? These things are not meant to just jack you up like a caffeine type of stimulant. They're going to give you some sort of task retention for productivity purposes without keeping you up, okay? So maybe it'll keep you up in the sense of if you're scrolling through your phone, you're just gonna wanna keep scrolling through your phone, but you're gonna get tired past a certain point. With caffeine, what it actually does, a lot of stimulants, is they bind to adenosine in your brain, which basically doesn't give you more energy, it makes you not tired, because it basically, adenosine essentially is going to make you tired when you have basically more sensitivity to it, and when you block the receptors of adenosine in your brain, you're going to be not tired, okay? It's basically works by inverting what you think it would do. So where I was going with this is I have a product I use, and I don't get paid for this promoting this product, okay? I do not. I just love this brand, Athletic Alliance, Canadian brand. That's why I have a freaking stand-up cardboard cutout from them. But basically, I love their stuff, and they do everything clean, luxury ingredients, and the formulations these guys have are just remarkable. So one way to kind of kill a lot of birds with one stone here is they have a product that's a pre-workout nootropic hybrid, and a lot of these ingredients can kind of be used for that purpose. So even here, we have the tyrosine and we have Forskolin in the same kind of complex here. This is called HAVOK-NEURO. It's basically, like I said, pre-workout nootropic complex, and I'll often use this when I'm going to the office for my first job, and then when I'm hitting the gym in between my second job, or if I have, then coming here home and do my third job. Whatever it is I'm doing, essentially this is a very good tool to hit a lot of birds with one stone, okay? You can use it for productivity, workout benefit, because there is a lot of pump enhancers, lactic acid buffers in here as well, and a light bit of stimulant, like 150 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. So very good, jack of all trades there. And if you're going to go for any of these supplements, I highly recommend you look at the ones I've linked in the description. Now, my favorite one here, or at least the one I'm using more commonly for fat burning purposes, is going to be carnitine, okay? Because it doesn't have any stimulatory properties, and tyrosine is something I'll use more so when I have a lot ahead of me, and I do want some of that, dopamine retention. Forskolin I'll also use interestingly in another way, because Forskolin has sodium retention effects similar to vasopressin, which is a pharmaceutical that's used to basically prevent you from excreting out sodium. So oftentimes what I'll do to kind of, take it easier on my adrenals if I'm using lots of stimulants is I will use a Forskolin, because it simply allows me to get more sodium and basically not tax my adrenals as much. So there's a lot of balancing when it comes to using nootropics properly, especially when we're in a fat burning context, because just because you're trying to get your body at the same time, your physique goals handled, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be productive. And oftentimes, you don't want those two goals to clash. So using a Forskolin is definitely a very balanced way to sort of address your fat burning goals, especially when you're using lots of stimulants. So definitely take it easy on that, and that's where Forskolin might actually provide you a lot of benefit. I personally find it to be very beneficial when it comes to verbal fluency in speech, because especially, when you're doing jobs like I do where I'm talking to people all day for a lot of my jobs, you want that sort of clear headedness of thought, okay? And another great way to get it too is in that flow complex I have linked below, which just love this stuff. It's very much, it also does have the ALCAR in there as well. So this is, if you're going to go for any complex linked below, I'd say either look at the Athletic Alliance, HAVOK-NEURO, or LifeStack's Flow, because you have the ALCAR in here, and you have a lot of other brain glutathione boosters in here, antioxidant effects, and the CBD to kind of relieve anxiety. So as far as focus intensive tasks, this is a great way to go, but I'll leave it at that. With tyrosine, it is going to be more of a luxury, but you can also find it in a lot of other pre-workouts. Example, HAVOK-NEURO. Okay, so that's it for this video. One last thing I'll say as a bonus, I haven't used this too much, but basically ephedrine, so hydrochloride, ephedrine hydrochloride. A lot of people use this in the States. You can't get it because it's banned, because even though it's been around for like 50 years and it's from a plant, basically it's the ephedra plant. Essentially, when you have too high doses of it, right, like in the early 2000s, some football kids had like 10 times the dose, and one of them had a heart attack, so they banned it. I'm in Canada, they unbanned it a year later, because they're like, this is a plant, we don't need to keep it banned, we just have to regulate it more carefully so people don't overdo it. So ephedrine can also be, especially because I've tended to use it more so for studying rather than anything, it definitely has thermogenic effects, so raising your body temperature so you burn more fat. And in the States, I know even in physique competitions, you're not allowed to use it in the States. It's not even legal in the States because it's technically banned there. People argue about that, but there's another basically comparable ingredient called yohimbine, which you can get in the States and you can't get in Canada, ironically. Both natural ingredients, but essentially they do have this sort of stimulating property to them, and they will have extra fat burning benefit because of the adrenaline they provide, both yohimbine and ephedrine. And essentially, they can jack you up in terms of if you overdo it, so you don't want to do that. And I don't have links to those products because it's not generally a great routine you want to get yourself in, relying on stimulants. That's why I'm going to more of these other mechanisms here. But it definitely, I mean, there's been times where I've used this stuff for studying back in university because I had to stay up late and the half-life is only 3 hours, whereas caffeine is 6. So overall, those are some other options, but subscribe, like, follow my Instagram, go to my website, romanoketo.com, and I will help you out as best I can in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Anthony Romano. Peace.